The quiet observers. The Kepler 442 system had been a source of conflict for over 2 decades. Three major alien civilizations claimed ownership of the resource-rich planets orbiting the young star, each believing their historical claims were stronger than the others. The Vorthan Empire, with their massive battlecruisers and warrior culture, insisted their ancient exploration records gave them first rights. The Zelk Confederacy, masters of trade and commerce, argued their economic investments in nearby systems made them the logical choice. The Mistral Collective, beings of pure energy who rarely involved themselves in physical conflicts, claimed the system's unique electromagnetic properties made it sacred to their kind. For years, these three powers had danced around each other in an elaborate game of diplomatic chess, each afraid to make the first move that might trigger a galaxy-wide war. Ships would patrol the borders, weapons would be displayed, and harsh words would be exchanged. But no one dared cross the line into actual combat. The system remained in a state of tense neutrality, its valuable minerals untouched, while the galaxy's most powerful civilizations argued over who had the right to claim them. Then humanity arrived. The Terran research vessel Pathfinder emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the system, its sleek but unremarkable hull reflecting the distant starlight. To the alien observers watching from their respective fleets, it looked like nothing more than a scout ship, probably lost or conducting some minor scientific survey. The vessel was small compared to their mighty dreadnoughts, its weapons minimal, its crew numbering only in the hundreds rather than the thousands that crewed their capital ships. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Pathfinder, her dark eyes scanning the holographic display that showed the positions of the three alien fleets. She was a veteran of humanity's early exploration efforts, one of the first generation of captains to venture beyond the solar system, when faster-than-light travel had finally been perfected. At 45, she had seen enough of the galaxy to know that appearances could be deceiving, and she understood that the small human presence in this system would likely be viewed with curiosity at best, contempt at worst. "Captain, we're receiving multiple hails from all three fleets," reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the communication station. "They're demanding to know our purpose here and ordering us to leave immediately." Vasquez nodded calmly. "Open a channel to all three fleets simultaneously. Let's see if we can establish some dialogue." The main screen flickered to life, showing three separate feeds. On the left was Commander Thrak of the Vorthan Empire, his reptilian features twisted in what humans had learned was the Vorthan equivalent of a scowl. His scaled skin was dark green, and his eyes glowed with an amber light that indicated his aggressive mood. In the center was Trade Minister Zex of the Zelk Confederacy, her insectoid form clicking with agitation as her compound eyes reflected the bridge lights. On the right was Harmonizer Vel of the Mistral Collective, their energy form shimmering between colors as they maintained their physical manifestation for the communication. "I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the Terran research vessel Pathfinder," she began, her voice steady and professional. "We come as neutral observers, hoping to facilitate peaceful resolution of the territorial dispute in this system. Earth's government has authorized us to serve as mediators if all parties are willing." Commander Thrak's laugh was a harsh, guttural sound. "Mediators? You humans have barely left your own solar system. What makes you think you have any authority to mediate disputes between civilizations that have spanned the galaxy for millennia?" Trade Minister Zex's mandibles clicked in agreement. "The Terran species is still in its infancy regarding galactic politics. Your offer is well-intentioned but naive. This dispute requires the wisdom of established powers, not the inexperience of newcomers." Harmonizer Vel's response was more diplomatic but equally dismissive. "While we appreciate the human desire for peace, this conflict involves complexities that your young civilization may not fully comprehend. Perhaps it would be best if you observed from a safe distance and learned from our negotiations." Captain Vasquez maintained her composure despite the condescending tone from all three aliens. "We understand that humanity is relatively new to galactic affairs, but sometimes an outside perspective can see solutions that may not be apparent to those deeply involved in a conflict. We ask only for the opportunity to observe and offer assistance if requested. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge of the Pathfinder in relative silence. Dr. Marcus Chen, the ship's chief science officer and xenoarchaeologist, looked up from his console with a troubled expression. "Captain, I've been analyzing the energy signatures from all three fleets while you were talking. There's something unusual about their power readings." "What kind of unusual?" Vasquez asked, moving to stand beside Chen's station. "Well, they're all running their systems at maximum capacity, but not for combat readiness. They're maintaining full defensive shields and weapons arrays, but they're also running massive sensor suites and what appear to be deep space communication arrays. It's as if they're not just watching each other, but broadcasting everything that happens here to their home governments." Vasquez nodded thoughtfully. "They're performing for their audiences back home. None of them can afford to appear weak or backing down from this dispute. That makes our job more complicated." Over the following weeks, the Pathfinder maintained its position at the edge of the system, observing the complex dance of the three alien fleets. Captain Vasquez and her crew documented patrol patterns, monitored communications, and slowly began to understand the intricate web of politics that kept the three powers locked in their standoff. The humans made no aggressive moves, conducted no military exercises, and maintained their position as neutral observers. But their presence was not ignored. The Galactic Mediation Council, a loose organization of elder species that occasionally attempted to prevent conflicts from escalating into full-scale wars, issued a formal statement regarding the Kepler 442 situation. The message was broadcast across all civilized space, carried by the vast network of hyperspace beacons that enabled faster-than-light communication. To all species and civilizations within range of this transmission, be advised that the Terran species has been granted observer status in the Kepler 442 territorial dispute. While humans are newcomers to galactic politics, their homeworld has demonstrated peaceful intentions and technological competence sufficient to warrant this recognition. All parties are advised to respect the neutral status of Terran vessels and personnel. However, let it be clearly understood that provoking the human observers or attempting to use them as pawns in this dispute may result in consequences that none of the involved parties fully comprehend. The warning was carefully worded, but its implications were clear to those who understood galactic politics. The Council had seen something in humanity that warranted respect, and they were advising caution to the more aggressive species. Commander Thrak received the message aboard his flagship, the Crimson Talon, and his reaction was predictably dismissive. The Council grows soft in their old age. He snarled to his tactical officer. They grant authority to a species that has barely mastered interstellar travel. The humans have no fleet, no empire, no proven strength. They are observers because they are weak, not because they deserve respect. His tactical officer, a younger Vorthan named Kresh, seemed less certain. "Commander, our intelligence reports suggest that human technology may be more advanced than their small fleet would indicate. Their ships emit unusual energy signatures, and their defensive capabilities appear to be significantly more robust than their size would suggest." Thrak's eyes flashed with anger. "Are you questioning my assessment, Kresh? The humans have perhaps a dozen ships in their entire fleet. We have thousands. They pose no threat to any major power." "Of course not, Commander," Kresh replied quickly. "I merely suggest that we should be cautious in our dealings with them, as the Council advised." The Council advised caution because they fear that human weakness might trigger a war between the major powers if one of us accidentally destroys their pathetic little ship. They are not warning us to fear the humans themselves, but to fear the political consequences of harming them. There is a difference. Thrak's interpretation of the Council's warning was not uncommon among the more aggressive species. Many believed that humanity's protected status came from their weakness, not their strength. The idea that a species with such a small presence in galactic affairs could pose any real threat seemed absurd to civilizations that had been conquering star systems for thousands of years. This misunderstanding would prove to be a critical error. As the weeks passed, the situation in the Kepler-442 system began to escalate. The three alien fleets grew bolder in their maneuvers, coming closer to direct confrontation as political pressure from their home governments increased. Trade Minister Zex received orders to secure mining rights in the system within 30 days or face replacement. Harmonizer Vel was informed that the Mistral Collective's patience was wearing thin with the extended negotiations. Commander Thrak was told that the Vorthan Empire expected results, not excuses. The pressure on all three sides was building toward an inevitable explosion. Captain Vasquez watched these developments with growing concern. The Pathfinder sensors detected increasing weapons signatures, more aggressive patrol patterns, and a gradual breakdown in the diplomatic communications between the three fleets. Several times, alien ships had come within weapons range of each other, and only last-minute course corrections had prevented actual combat. Captain, Dr. Chen reported from his station. I'm detecting unusual activity from the human ship monitoring stations in the outer system. It appears that Earth has been quietly deploying additional assets to this region. Vasquez frowned. What kind of assets? Sensor platforms, communication relays, and what appear to be defensive installations. They're using stealth technology that makes them nearly invisible to standard sensors, but our enhanced detection systems are picking up faint signatures. How many installations are we talking about? Chen's fingers flew across his console as he refined his scans. Captain, I'm reading at least 50 separate installations scattered throughout the outer system. They're all powered down to minimal levels, but they're definitely there. Vasquez felt a chill run down her spine. 50 installations. Dr. Chen, that's not a research mission. That's a military deployment. It appears that Earth has been preparing for this situation for some time, Captain. These installations didn't just appear overnight. Based on the energy decay signatures, some of them have been in place for months. Before Vasquez could respond, the communications console erupted with alerts. Lieutenant Kim's voice was tense as she reported, Captain, we're receiving an emergency transmission from the Vorthan flagship. Commander Thrak is demanding to speak with you immediately. The main screen flickered to life, showing Thrak's angry face. His eyes were now glowing with the deep red that indicated maximum aggression, and his voice was a barely controlled growl. Captain Vasquez, your presence in this system has become a complication that I will no longer tolerate. The Vorthan Empire has decided to resolve this dispute through strength, as our ancestors intended. I am giving you 1 hour to remove your ship from this system before we begin our assault on the Zelk and Mistral fleets. Vasquez kept her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. Commander Thrak, I strongly advise against any aggressive action. The diplomatic solution is still possible if all parties are willing to negotiate in good faith. Negotiate. Thrak's laugh was harsh and cruel. There is nothing to negotiate. The strong take what they want, and the weak accept what they are given. Your species will learn this lesson soon enough. I suggest you learn it from a safe distance. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Dr. Chen looked up from his console with a grim expression. Captain, I'm detecting massive power buildups across all three fleets. Weapons systems are coming online, and they're moving into attack formations. Captain Vasquez stood in the center of the bridge, her mind racing through options. The situation was about to explode into violence, and the Pathfinder was caught in the middle. But she had a feeling that Earth's preparations for this moment went far beyond what anyone in the system suspected. Dr. Chen, she said quietly, send a coded message to Earth Command. Tell them that the situation in Kepler-442 has reached critical status and that we may need to implement the Aegis Protocol. Chen's eyes widened. Captain, are you sure? The Aegis Protocol hasn't been tested in actual combat conditions. Unsure, Doctor, and I have a feeling we're about to find out just how well it works. The stage was set. 3 alien fleets prepared for war, confident in their superiority and dismissive of the small human ship that watched from the edge of the system. They had been warned not to provoke the humans, but they had interpreted that warning as a sign of human weakness rather than human strength. They were about to discover how wrong they had been. When patience ends, the first shots of what would later be called the Kepler 442 incident were fired at 14:37 Standard Galactic Time. Commander Thrak, true to his word, ordered his fleet to attack the Zelk Confederacy ships that had been patrolling the inner system. Massive plasma cannons erupted in brilliant flashes of light as Vorthan battlecruisers unleashed their fury on the surprise Zelk vessels. The Zelk response was swift and coordinated. Their ships, built for speed and maneuverability rather than brute force, scattered and began hit-and-run attacks on the larger Vorthan vessels. The space around Kepler 442 bits erupted in a deadly dance of energy beams and missile strikes as the two fleets engaged in the first open combat the system had seen in decades. The Mistral Collective, initially content to observe the conflict between their rivals, found themselves drawn into the battle when a damaged Zelk cruiser collided with one of their energy-form vessels. The collision was accidental, but the Mistral interpretation was that it was a deliberate attack. Within minutes, their ships were joining the fray, their exotic energy weapons adding a third dimension to the chaos. Aboard the Pathfinder, Captain Vasquez watched the battle unfold with a mixture of sadness and determination. She had hoped that diplomacy might still prevail, but the sight of alien ships destroying each other in the space around a contested world confirmed her worst fears. Captain, Lieutenant Kim reported from the communications station. We're receiving multiple hails from all 3 fleets. They're demanding that we withdraw from the system immediately. Let me guess, Vasquez replied grimly. They're concerned about our safety. Actually, no ma'am. Commander Thrak specifically stated that any ship not aligned with the Vorthan Empire would be considered a legitimate target. Trade Minister Zex warned that the Zelk Confederacy could not guarantee our safety if we remained in the combat zone, and Harmonizer Vel advised that the Mistral Collective's energy weapons might damage our ship systems even at extreme range. Dr. Chen looked up from his science station, his face pale. Captain, they're not warning us for our safety. They're giving us an ultimatum. Join one of their sides or be destroyed as a neutral party. Vasquez nodded slowly. That's exactly what they're doing. And that, Dr. Chen, is a very serious mistake. She moved to the captain's chair and activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is the captain. We are now implementing the Aegis Protocol. All personnel are to report to their designated stations and prepare for full defensive operations. This is not a drill. Throughout the ship, humans who had been conducting peaceful research and diplomatic observations suddenly transformed into something else entirely. Hidden panels slid open to reveal advanced weapon systems that had been concealed within the Pathfinder's hull. The ship's energy signature, which had been carefully dampened to appear weak and non-threatening, suddenly blazed with power that rivaled the alien battlecruisers. Dr. Chen, Vasquez ordered, activate the beacon network. It's time to show our new friends what human preparation really looks like. Chen's fingers flew across his console, sending coded signals to the 50 installations that had been secretly placed throughout the outer system. One by one, they came online, their stealth systems dropping away to reveal a network of defensive platforms, sensor arrays, and weapon emplacements that had been watching and waiting for this moment. The effect on the alien fleets was immediate and dramatic. Commander Thrak was in the middle of coordinating an attack on a Zelk formation when his tactical officer suddenly shouted in alarm. Commander, we're detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. Unknown installations are coming online everywhere. Thrak spun to face the tactical display, his amber eyes widening in shock. The holographic representation of the Kepler 442 system was suddenly filled with red dots indicating armed installations. They surrounded the inner system like a carefully constructed web, each one positioned to provide overlapping fields of fire and sensor coverage. How many? Thrak demanded. 57 confirmed installations, Commander. And they're all broadcasting Terran identification codes. Impossible. The humans have one ship in this system, one small research vessel. Commander, the tactical officer's voice was tight with fear. Each of these installations is outputting energy signatures equivalent to a heavy cruiser. And they're all targeting our ships. Aboard the Zelk flagship, Trade Minister Zex was facing a similar crisis. Her ship's sensors had detected the sudden appearance of the human installations, and her military advisors were struggling to understand how an entire defensive network had been deployed without their knowledge. Minister, her chief military advisor clicked nervously. Our intelligence services completely missed this. The humans have been preparing for this situation for months, possibly years. This level of coordination and planning suggests a military capability far beyond what we estimated. Zex's compound eyes reflected the light from the tactical display as she studied the positions of the human installations. They have us surrounded. Every escape route from the inner system is covered by their weapons. Minister, we could attempt to fight our way out, but our ships are already damaged from the battle with the Vorthans. If the humans decide to engage us, we would be caught between three enemies. The Mistral Collective was experiencing similar revelations aboard their energy form vessels. Harmonizer Vel, whose people were masters of energy manipulation and detection, was perhaps the most shocked by the sudden appearance of the human network. How did they hide this from us? Vel asked their subordinates. Our sensors should have detected any significant energy sources in this system. Harmonizer, the humans appear to have developed stealth technology that operates on principles we do not fully understand. Their installations were powered down to minimal levels and shielded by some form of adaptive camouflage. Only when they activated their full systems did we detect them. And now they have us completely surrounded. Their weapons are targeting all three fleets simultaneously. If they choose to attack, none of us could escape. Captain Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Pathfinder, watching as the alien fleet struggled to comprehend their new situation. The three forces that had been locked in combat moments before were now drawing closer together, their survival instincts overriding their territorial disputes as they faced a common threat. Captain, Dr. Chen reported, all installations are online and ready. We have complete tactical control of the system. Thank you, Doctor. Lieutenant Kim, open a channel to all three fleets. I believe it's time for a conversation. The main screen split into three sections, showing the faces of the three alien commanders. Thrak's expression was a mixture of rage and fear. Zex looked calculating and wary, and Vel's energy form was shifting through colors that indicated extreme agitation. Commanders, Vasquez began, her voice calm but carrying an unmistakable authority. I believe we need to discuss the current situation. What is the meaning of this? Thrak demanded. Your species was granted observer status, not military authority. This is an act of war. Actually, Commander, Vasquez replied, this is an act of defense. You and your allies have just threatened a neutral party and demanded that we choose sides in your conflict or face destruction. That, by any definition, is an act of aggression. Trade Minister Zex leaned forward in her chair. Captain Vasquez, surely we can negotiate a solution to this misunderstanding. The Zelk Confederacy has always been willing to work with reasonable parties. Harmonizer Vel nodded their agreement. The Mistral Collective seeks only peace and understanding. Perhaps we can find a way to resolve this situation without further conflict. Vasquez studied the three alien leaders, noting how quickly their attitudes had changed once they realized they were outgunned. I'm glad to hear that all three of you are interested in peaceful resolution. However, I think it's important that we establish some ground rules for future interactions. She paused, allowing the weight of her words to sink in before continuing. First, the Kepler 442 system is now under Terran protection. Any attempt to resume hostilities within this system will be met with immediate and overwhelming force. Second, all three of your fleets will withdraw to the outer system and power down your weapon systems. Third, you will participate in mediated negotiations to resolve your territorial dispute through peaceful means. And if we refuse, Thrak asked, though his tone was considerably less aggressive than before, then you will discover why the Galactic Mediation Council warned you not to provoke humans. Vasquez replied simply. To demonstrate her point, she nodded to Dr. Chen, who activated one of the human installations. The weapon platform powered up its main cannon and fired a single shot at a small asteroid in the outer system. The asteroid, roughly the size of a Vorthan battlecruiser, simply vanished in a flash of light. That was our lowest power setting, Vasquez explained. Our installations are capable of much more impressive demonstrations if necessary. The three alien commanders exchanged glances, each recognizing that their situation had fundamentally changed. The humans, who they had dismissed as weak and inexperienced, had just demonstrated a level of military capability that rivaled any of the major galactic powers. How long have you been preparing for this? Zex asked quietly. Since our first contact with galactic civilization, Vasquez answered honestly. Humanity learned very quickly that the galaxy is a dangerous place and that peaceful intentions are not enough to guarantee survival. We hoped that our defensive preparations would never be needed, but we were not naive enough to believe that hope was sufficient. Harmonizer Vel's energy form shifted to colors that indicated deep thought. Your species has been systematically underestimated by the galactic community. This level of technological advancement and strategic planning suggests a civilization far more sophisticated than anyone realized. We prefer to be underestimated, Vasquez replied. It gives us the advantage of surprise when dealing with those who mistake our peaceful nature for weakness. Commander Thrak was silent for a long moment before speaking. Captain Vasquez, the Vorthan Empire acknowledges your authority in this system. We will withdraw our forces and participate in the negotiations you have proposed. As will the Zelk Confederacy, Zex added quickly. The Mistral Collective agrees as well, Vel confirmed. Vasquez nodded, satisfied with their responses. Excellent. Dr. Chen will coordinate the withdrawal of your forces to safe positions. Negotiations will begin in 72 hours, allowing time for your governments to send diplomatic representatives. As the transmission ended, the bridge of the Pathfinder was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. The three alien fleets, which had been locked in mortal combat just minutes before, were now carefully moving away from each other and powering down their weapons systems under the watchful eyes of the human installations. Captain, Dr. Chen asked quietly, what happens now? Vasquez looked out at the stars, knowing that news of what had happened in the Kepler 442 system would spread throughout the galaxy within days. The image of humanity as a weak, peaceful species would be forever changed. Now, Dr. Chen, the galaxy learns that humans are not to be trifled with. We've always preferred diplomacy and peaceful resolution, but we've also always been prepared for the possibility that others might not share our values. She paused, thinking about the implications of their actions. The Galactic Mediation Council issued a warning about provoking humans. Today, the galaxy discovered why that warning was necessary. Humanity is no longer the weak newcomer that can be ignored or dismissed. We are a power to be respected, and those who forget that fact do so at their own peril. In the days that followed, news of the Kepler 442 incident spread throughout galactic civilization like wildfire. The story of how a single human ship had ended a three-way battle between major powers and imposed peace through overwhelming technological superiority became legend. The human installations that had appeared seemingly from nowhere became the subject of intense study and speculation by alien scientists and military strategists. The negotiations that followed were swift and successful. With the threat of human intervention hanging over their heads, the three alien powers quickly reached a compromise that divided the system's resources fairly among them. The Terran Federation was granted a permanent monitoring station in the system, ensuring that the peace would be maintained. But the real impact of the incident was not the resolution of a single territorial dispute. It was the fundamental shift in how the galaxy viewed humanity. No longer could any species afford to dismiss humans as weak or inexperienced. The warning had been clear: do not provoke the humans. Now the galaxy understood why. Captain Elena Vasquez would go on to become one of the most respected diplomats in galactic history, her success in the Kepler-442 system serving as a model for future human interactions with alien civilizations. The Pathfinder would be remembered as the ship that announced humanity's arrival as a major power in galactic affairs. And throughout the galaxy, in the halls of power and the academies of learning, a new lesson was taught to every species. Humans prefer peace, but they are prepared for war. Underestimate them at your own peril. The warning had been given, and the galaxy had learned to listen.